Rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Present.
Councilman Cypress.
Here.
Councilman Larka.
Here.
Councilman O'Connor.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notation of exits in the front and the rear, an electronic device. Please put it on vibrate. I make a motion to come out of the executive session. No action was taken.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First item on the agenda is a work session, discussion, Brewster Heights Water District. Did, Bill? Is Dale coming?
Dale's here.
Where is he?
Raise your hand.
Oh, come up front. Okay. Gentlemen, would you like to bring us up to speed on what's happening in Brewster Heights? And I'm quite sure there's some questions from the audience.
And
Yes, please.
me.
Okay.
Questions?
Oh, there's going to be a lot of questions.
Good evening.
Evening.
We on?
Yes.
Yeah.
Just bring it
Okay.
up so you don't have to bend down.
My name's Dale Reisinger. I work for H2O Innovations. I am the lead operator at the Brewster Heights Water Facility. I have been answering calls and fielding some complaints of dirty water over the last, I don't know, I'd say there was a couple sessions. We just had a situation in about a month and a half ago as well. The cause of the discoloration of water is due to high levels of manganese in the raw water from the reservoir. To give you for instance, last year, I think our highest milligram per liter or part per million on entry point of manganese was about a 0.5, maybe a 0.6 one day. This year, we have gotten levels up to 1.3. So we've almost, it's 1.5 times what we're used to treating. Removal of the manganese takes an oxidation process to get it out of, precipitate it out of the water. The levels that came out from entry point after treatment from the plant never exceeded any of the MCLs, the maximum contaminant levels in New York State Department of Health standards. The data is there to show it. It's been stored, kept, and at no time did we put anybody in a position to consume something that wasn't potable and safe. I do understand discolored water, if you do have it, is not aesthetically desirable. But again, I want to just reassure you that it never exceeded any limits, ever. I was in contact constantly with the Department of Health, with the Special Districts Manager, Rodney Brown. We did field a lot of phone calls. We went out. We tried to field as many as we can. We didn't get everybody, but we did get most people that called in with a concern of dirty water. We went to the house, we took samples, we brought them back. Nothing was over the limits. Again, was it a little discolored? In some of the places, yes. I'm not going to say it wasn't. But the facility that we have, these are Trimite filters. It's, you know, it was designed to polish the water from the lake, take out any suspended, coagulate out suspended particles, any dirt, anything in there that might be, give it a high turbidity. We have to get it down to get the turbidity to a standard that is to be met by the Department of Health. We also had to disinfect for any kind of bacteria or anything that might approach to come in. It really is not a system that is designed for iron and manganese removal. We do have, there are methods for removing iron and manganese. We use a method of potassium permanganate. It's an oxidant. We add it to the water, the raw water. to oxidize the ions. Then we coagulate them, we filtrate them, we disinfect, and it goes out. What happens in this last little episode we just had last week where the water got discolored was, we are at the facility for 8 hours a day. At night, the plant runs in cycles, about 6-hour cycles. One of the pieces of equipment, it was a peristaltic pump, had a tube, has a tube feed in it. The tube cracked and broke, and the coagulant I needed after oxidizing the manganese, going to the filters, was not being added, so it was not coagulating for us to filtrate out. So it went through, it eventually broke through in the morning and discolored the water in the storage tanks. Suggestions that I would have to stop that kind of stuff is we need some kind of, fail-safe. You're going to need an alarm to go off that it's not coagulating, that you're not feeding a chemical. We do not have that. This is something that we should definitely look at. Also, a flow pace for our KMNO4, because that's what will turn your water pink. You get a light pink hue if you get too much of it in the water. So if we had something to say to us and set an alarm out and come to us, that would be very, very helpful. It could stop that kind of situation. Another example is yesterday our manganese was a 1.245. Today it was a 0.4. So it lost 0.8 in one day. Not to say it's not going to float back up, because it is a pretty good continuing mix there, but I'm still feeding a chemical, not a dosed paste, not a flow paste chemical. I'm feeding a chemical on the concentration of manganese from the day before, and we're checking it all along, and all of a sudden I come in the next day and it's at a 0.4 instead of a 1.2. We've lost 0.8 milligrams per liter. That's a huge number, but I'm still feeding for the 1.4. So that is not a flow-paced thing. As the flow goes up and down, your chemical feed should go up and down. We did talk about it with the engineering firm, with Bill and the engineering firm, and he's come up with some good ideas as to what we're going to do about it. That's a start. Another thing that would pretty much make things bulletproof would be green sand filtration. And green sand filtration would be taking the water after we filter, after we disinfect, after the water goes to storage, running it through a pressure filter of green sand, then to our hydromatic tank, and then to the consumer. That will take out all your manganese, and you won't have that problem. This is a problem that's been 20-plus year problem. It's not something that just happened. We do work, we're doing the best we can with what we have. And the manganese is getting worse and worse every year. So I just want to assure you that we take a lot of pride in what we do over there, and it makes me not sleep at night. It makes me very worried. I'm not happy with it. And it's all because you. I have a license to protect you, which I do. I would never give you something that's not safe and not potable. So that's in a nutshell what's going on. There are proposals. I think Bill's going to put a couple things out here as far as the types of filtration. Another set of filters that is going to be needed. As far as how he's going to go about it, or how the town's going to go about it, I'm not sure. That's where we're at right now.
You want any? Oh, that's good.
Should we ask some questions now before?
Well, you can ask questions, and if someone from the public wants to have some input, let them speak.
Maybe
to
we
that.
could ask some questions.
Sure.
I don't know, Bill, are we going to hear from you on some solutions?
Yeah.
Should we do that before we open it to the public meeting?
However you want to do it.
Okay, so I'll start with some questions. This is a major problem for this board, major problem. I think all of us know handfuls, if not more, dozens of family that live up in the Heights. Last year, this was a major problem, lasted through the whole month of August. We had to escalate it. We had one of these meetings, and it was resolved. It did get better, and I think it was better for 9 months or so. You said this episode a week. I had originally been notified of this on the 27th of August, and I didn't even get a response for a week. And this persisted to be a problem through the middle of September. And the communication is poor. I had to write several emails before we got a communication out to the public. And that communication, I don't think, it needs to be a little more empathetic and a little less technical. When it happened again, I recommended another communication go out, and still, it wasn't timely enough. I had called the line a few times, and I got the answering service. I called Kenny Sabia, who I believe is the manager for H2O. I called him 3 times, left messages, and I still have not heard back from him. So I know that's not you, but H2O is a contract with this town. We pay that contract, and if we reach out because we're having issues for weeks, we expect a call back. And I don't mean to shoot the messenger here. So, these things, do they just happen overnight, fill the tank, or do they build up over time and fill the tank?
Yeah, they do build up over time. If we do get a high rise, like, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the levels of manganese skyrocketed so high, and we were fighting and fighting and fighting it. And again, we were getting it down to from a 1.2 raw to a 0.15. Okay, so we're removing 90-some% of it. We were doing the best we could with what we did. Then what happens is it'll go out there. We use a polyorthophosphate for sequestering. And what happens is if it goes out there and somebody's cleaning their tub or they're putting cleaner in their toilet or any kind of Clorox, that oxidizes what's left in the water and can bring it out of solution and give it a brown color. So is it something that happens overnight? The levels went up. They was underneath the MCL. They were about half of the MCL, and they just rode like this. We've gotten it back down. We had that mechanical burp. It went back up, and now it's back down as of today, and it's running smooth. So
does the water get tested every day?
Every day.
And do those tests show warning signs that stuff's going into the tank that shouldn't be? That causes the discoloration?
As far as the discoloration, yeah. Your turbidities will go up. Things will go up in the water. You might not be able to see it, but yes, it's tested, it's data, and it's logged, and we have it all, and the town has it all every day.
Were there?
So manganese is what we're talking about?
Can you go to the mic just for the video so they can hear you?
Just want
Thanks.
to bring a clarification so you understand. The manganese in the reservoir is dissolved, right? It's a dissolved chemical. What we have to do in the treatment process is we have to oxidize that manganese, and when we oxidize it, it converts it from a soluble form to an insoluble form. So it takes them from a dissolved state into a little sediment particle. All right. The treatment process requires certain physical properties to be in place for that to be most efficient. pH has to be at the right place, higher, closer to 8. You have to feed enough of the oxidant, which is potassium permanganate. Chlorine is also an oxidant. All right, chlorine will do the same thing that potassium permanganate does. The problem is that if we don't remove all of the dissolved manganese through the treatment process, and some dissolved manganese ends up in the distribution system, the chlorine will convert that from the soluble form into the insoluble form. And then that piece of sediment settles in the pipe, and it stays there. And over time, the more that happens, the more sediment builds up, which is fine as long as the velocity in the main doesn't increase. Once the velocity in the main changes or increases, it's going to stir that settled manganese up. And it doesn't take, manganese is a lot like talc, except it's black, it's not white, but it's very similar to talc. So it doesn't take very much manganese to discolor water. So we have to, what we learned last year was that the lower we can get the dissolved manganese going into the system, the less of a chance that we're gonna form a reservoir of sediment in the distribution system. We know that if we're below a 0.01, preferably a 0.05, 0.05 is actually the recommended standard by the US EPA for manganese in a distribution system. I would say from September till even later than that, we were consistently below that level of manganese going into the system. Granted, because of the rain, we've had a lot of rain, and what happens is the rain is acidic, so it lowers the pH, which with manganese needs a high pH to cut the reaction time of the oxidant to convert it from the dissolved state into the soluble state where it's filterable. So as the pH drops, you need actually more time to remove the manganese, is what it comes down to. So those were the two physical changes. We had more manganese come into the raw water, and we had a lowering of the pH. There is no way to adjust pH at the raw water pump station, which is where we believe we should be adjusting pH. We think we should be adjusting pH at the reservoir at that pump house and getting that pH up to 8.5 or so. So we have as quick of a reaction from the manganese, from the oxidant, from the permanganate, as we can have, so we can precipitate it before it ever gets to the treatment plant. All right, that capability they don't have. It's never been there. It's probably one of the reasons we've had a 25-year problem, is because we've never been able to adjust pH there. Very simple solution. And we're looking at within the next 2 weeks fixing that. All right, we have to get approvals and things like that, but if we can get that pH up. Now, flow pacing, he's completely right. Nothing is flow paced. It's all manually operated. So if things change overnight, I mean, they get there in the morning, they do their tests, and they make adjustments. All right, so something can occur from the last time they were there, 2 o'clock, the day before. If we have a we have a gigantic rainstorm and a lot of manganese gets washed in, adjustments will probably have to be made. So,
Bill, I know you're not the day-to-day operator, just so everyone knows that, but I understand there's a lot of options to make improvements.
yep.
And so it's a two-part question, but the first part is, right now, before those get approved, can the plant handle getting that water clear and being managed
I
until?
believe so.
Okay.
I believe it can.
And so then, and I guess this is a question for H2O. If the plant can handle it, why is it taking weeks to resolve this? And if there are simple fixes, nothing has been brought to our attention for that. So it was clean for 9 months, then it gets dirty, then we get hammered by the public. We action, weeks go by, nothing happens, but the plant can handle it. And nobody's asking us to purchase or make an improvement to the intake or all the technical stuff, which I don't understand.
And if I could jump in before you answer, where I thought you were going was, I think it's tied to the communication thing when you asked, do you have indications that the water is dirty?
Yeah.
So, like, I can't run a water treatment plant, Bill, I don't know anything you just said, but I don't want to read on Facebook that there's dirty water. I want to hear it from you.
No, I understand.
So-
You're getting levels that elevated up. We did treat them. I made the calls. I made the concentration changes of the potassium permanganate. Like Bill said, there's a certain amount of time that's needed from the plant from the raw water to the plant for things to oxidize and precipitate out. If I'm adding enough of this chemical in there to combat the manganese that's there, but it doesn't have the time to do it. Now I have an overdose of manganese in the water, so I'm juggling this fine thing but I'm keeping it all below the standards. That's my goal, is to keep it below. Obviously, you don't want dirty water, but it's going to happen. It's going
Would
to
you say, just to
So
clarify?
so the question was, can the plant do it?
Yes.
The plant can do it, but it does require, it's a much harder plant to operate. It's not an easy plant to operate under those circumstances. It's just not easy to run. It takes, I mean, a lot of vigilance and a lot of time at the site, and it just, should the plant be staffed? If the plant were staffed 24/7, it would be easier to manage. But there are things that we can do that are built into it that they haven't been accessed. So you have a control system there. It's a very advanced control system. There's a lot of parts to it that aren't being used, and we're in the process of talking to the integrator, the people who designed the control system, to fully understand all of its capabilities. The goal would be to monitor the water quality such that if the manganese exceeded a certain amount, it set an alarm off and shut the plant off.
But Eric's question was, today,
Yeah.
do you have signals that you're pushing water out that's not optimal? And I
No,
thought
it's all
you
a
said-
manual. It's a manual test right now.
And
But I thought the answer was yes.
No,
I think
no.
what I was saying is, if, I'm trying to use an analogy because I don't understand any of this chemistry, but if it was, 0.1 one morning, then 0.2 the next morning, then 0.3, shouldn't that be actionable and solvable? And were any of these
In a
tests?
perfect world, yeah, in a perfect world, you would have trend, you would observe the trending, and you would make an adjustment, right?
So were any of the trending missed? And I don't know if you can answer that, Bill. I know you don't run the plant, but
Yeah. Well, what I'm doing is I'm looking back at data. I'm looking back at data, and I can see how what happened happens, because there's a number of things working against the operators at that point. You have pH dropping, you have manganese increasing, right? You're feeding this chemical to oxidize that dissolved manganese. There's a thing called manganese demand. You have to make sure that you have enough chemical to offset the amount of manganese that's coming in. If he goes and does the test and it shows there's enough chemical, in that instant that he took the sample, there's enough. So he makes his decision to adjust to that. An hour from now, things change. I mean, it really does, because the reservoir, our suction line is only 30 feet down. All right, so we're subject to a very varied raw water quality. All right, the raw water quality does vary quite a bit. What I think we can do is to take what we have there, the computers, the control system that we have, add the monitoring to it, such that as soon as, and we do the set points, all right, we set the ranges that we want, all right, and we put this online monitoring on. I mean, I wrote it, I don't know who I sent it to, but I sent it to a bunch of people. I believe that data is public data. I would put the data up on the website, right? So every day, this is the range it's supposed to be at, this is the range it was at every day. So there's never a question that we're within the parameters of what it should be. Because if it goes up, you're not gonna have dirty water today or tomorrow. In 2 weeks, you'll have dirty water if there's an event. Because it takes time for that manganese to get oxidized by the manganese you don't remove at the filter plant will be oxidized in your distribution system.
I got the impression there were some trends that may have been missed and could have been treated
Yeah,
quicker.
there's no doubt there was trends that were missed that could have been picked up. It's not that in the defense of the operators that there's a lot going on right now. There's a lot of cleanup going on. A lot of things are being worked on and being improved throughout all of the systems in the town right now. It's very busy right now. There's many improvements happening at all of the different sites. Did we maybe lose focus on the on the column for the manganese during the 2 or 3 week period when this really started? Yeah, but
So
it's fixable.
one thing I just want to say, because I got a lot of questions about this, there's discolored water. and
So
there's
here's what happens.
But
Water's-
hold on, and there's the dirty water.
Yeah.
Those two terms are used. The term dirty water for a layman like me sounds much
See, I
worse.
call it dirty water.
Yeah.
If it isn't perfect, it's dirty. That's to me.
Right, but we
Right.
sent out a notice to
Yeah.
residents saying that we gave them dirty water.
Okay,
and
so-
that doesn't sound good.
Okay, so here for every, let's say for every pound, just to throw a number, pound of manganese that comes into the treatment plant, the goal is to remove that whole pound of manganese. If a tenth of a pound or 100th of a pound or a 1,000th of a pound gets through and goes into the treatment system, goes into the distribution system, dissolved, the chlorine that we have to put in the free chlorine residual that we carry in the distribution system to kill the bacteria will oxidize that manganese and will turn it from, see, water with dissolved manganese in it looks crystal clear because it's dissolved, right? Water with insoluble manganese that's been oxidized, is off color. And it starts yellow. Manganese itself is black, so the more you get, the closer to black you get. As opposed to iron, which is a rusty color. A lot of times iron and manganese go together. We don't have an iron problem right now. I don't think we've ever had an iron, but it's because of the manganese that's in the reservoir. It's in different forms in the reservoir. It's combined with organic matter. I mean, it's a complicated chemical mix, but it is treatable by this facility. It is treatable, but the operators definitely need more tools, and the public needs more oversight on the water quality that leads the plant.
Who's the public?
The public, the people who drink.
They need more, what are
They need oversight, which is what we're talking about putting in, is taking that data points, right, and tuning them in, and then making the changes automatically.
Okay.
So if the manganese level is higher than what we want it to be, it'll feed more chemical, and it'll bring it down into. It doesn't do that now. All of that is manual.
So one of the questions I imagine everyone here wants to know is, and I think you may have answered this, Dale, but the quality of the water has never been unsafe.
Never been this way.
And it gets tested by a lab.
By a New York State certified lab,
Okay.
by the health department, they come out and do periodic testing too.
And it's tested every day?
No,
Every day.
well,
The operators are.
They test, the water quality testing they're doing every day is free chlorine residual. And what free chlorine residual means, chlorine, after it's combined with the iron and the manganese and the things that take the chlorine and use it for other things, it's the chlorine, after all that has happened, that actually kills bacteria and oxidizes organic matter. So free chlorine residual is a very important thing they have to maintain a 0.2 parts per million of free chlorine residual throughout the distribution system. And they have an entry point, what's your entry point requirements? 0.7, 0.8, 0.7. So they have to maintain a 0.7 leaving the plant at all times. You probably carry more than that, because in order to have a 0.2 at the farthest point, you got to carry a higher residual at the plant. So 10,000 feet down the road, it still maintains that chlorine residual. So we have that chlorine in there all the time. So if we introduce any dissolved manganese into it, it's going to oxidize, and it's going to go in, and it's going to settle, and it's going to form sediment, and eventually the velocity in the main is going to change. That's just what happens. People use more water, people use less water. Whenever the velocity changes, the stored sediment gets churned up.
Yep.
The water mains are designed to store sediment, all right? The bottom 10% of a water main is where the sediment settles. That's why every quarter or so we flush. We go in there and we increase the velocity in the main to what's called flushing velocity. And what that does is it goes through the pipe so fast, it actually scours out all the sediment and discharges it out, out of the hydrant, and it removes it from the water main.
So, Bill, I think, I'm not going to get this right, and don't correct me because I don't know all the terms, but what we're talking about is alarm monitoring, green filters.
Well, because this is a long-standing water quality issue, it absolutely qualifies for the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant program. All right, so the first thing we want to do is prepare the engineering that's necessary that has to go with a grant application. All right. In that engineering report, we will come up with a prioritized list of things that we believe need to be incorporated into the existing system. The green sand is a media, all right, and it's specifically designed to remove iron and manganese, all right, and it does a really good job at removing iron and manganese. There's a couple of ways we could do it, and we have sand filters there, and we're gonna look at different ways. We're even looking at changing the media that's in the sand filters and putting green sand in. So it'll remove the particles that are in surface water, the turbidity, the clays, all the things that we have in the reservoir. But it will specifically remove iron and manganese. So the question that we have to come up with, and we may even have to run a pilot. We're still at the early part of that solution. But certainly putting a two-stage treatment process in does sound like a better way of doing it. So what we would do is take the treatment plant effluent and then take that and run it into a green sand filter. Because then you're removing, as opposed to removing 1 part per million that's coming in from the reservoir, you're removing 0.1. So it's kind of that's like a bulletproof system. That's what we would look for.
And then the alarm.
So the alarms are, right now we have turbidimeters on each filter, all right? Under the Safe Drinking Water Act, or the Enhanced Surface Water Treatment Rule, which is why the plant was built, all surface water has to be filtered before you can drink it, all right? That's why the plant was built back in '95. Under that rule, there are limits of turbidity that are allowed to be discharged from the filter. Each filter has a turbidimeter on it, and if it exceeds that, an alarm goes off and it does a shutdown, all right? What we want to do is we want to add to that, we want to put an iron and manganese probe or monitoring system that monitors the discharge for iron and manganese. So if it ever exceeds whatever we set it at, probably the EPA limit is what we would set it at, is 0.05. We might push it because we know that as long as we're under 0.01, we can go a good 3 or 4 months without having to flush. We know our water quality is really good when what we're putting out is in those low ranges. All right, our water quality suffers when it gets up higher, then it shortens the time and it fills the mains up more, and it makes flushing have to occur more. So all we're talking about is monitoring that dissolved chemical, that dissolved manganese, so that it can't enter the distribution system and be oxidized by the chlorine that has to be there and create dirty water down the road. So that's something that we're looking. I mean, if we can get one of those units and install it quickly, we're gonna do that, all right? We've talked to the integrator, we know that, I'm gonna throw a word out there, that the streaming current monitoring, which is already there, can be tied into that on-off system. What we want is, we don't want the plant to ever put out water that exceeds the level that could produce dirty water down the road.
What's a quickly is months, weeks?
I just found the meter I like today. It's made by a company we buy stuff from all the time, Hack. I was planning on calling them tomorrow and seeing how much it costs.
So that's good. I heard the plant can handle it, but it's more of being there in time and making the adjustments.
What we want to do is we want to remove, it's not that we want to remove it, we want to give the operators, we want to give the plant the ability to make decisions
Right.
before the operator gets a chance to.
But I was saying, in the short term, before we get the, like, I don't want to get another call,
Yeah,
email,
I
text
think they hear that.
about yellow water between now and
Yeah.
whenever this is fixed.
Yeah.
And this was such a big issue last year. I can't tell you how
Yeah.
big of an issue this was.
And it went away.
9 months it went away, but 9 months we didn't put an alarm on.
So
Like,
two things that they're gonna watch. They're gonna watch pH, and if we have to put soda ash or something down at Drewville, we'll do that. That's easy to do. We'll put a crock down there and a pump. We'll call the health department, the DEC, we'll say, we need to adjust pH. They'll agree to let us do that. That's something we can do very quickly.
I guess what I was going to say, if the water is crystal clear for the next 2 weeks, like, I don't want to wait to do any of this. So we need to do it as quickly as possible.
Yep.
And there's we talked, Bill, there's grants available, there's financing available.
Yeah, the grant applications, they all just went in, all right?
For this district?
Well, so we've been working on a capital improvement plan for all of the districts in the town, all right? The most critical things we've been working on is to get the filtration systems up and running at Star Ridge and at Birch Hill because they're drinking water that has human carcinogens in it. They have it there. And they've been approved, and we've gotten the grant money, it's fully funded, and we're just working with the health department to get the approvals done so we can get to a construction and get those filters installed. While we're doing that, I mean, this is the priority right now. So, as far as working with the regulators, making sure they understand that, it's a critical thing. At some point, we may have to talk to the state legislator, the senator, or the assembly person to have them promote our grant application. We've done that many times at other communities. So
I would do that.
yeah, and we know how to do that, and we know, so those are the things that we'll be working on. But the goal is in the short term to do as many changes as we can do that give Dale as many tools as he can have, so when a problem occurs that he doesn't even notice, because he's doing 10 other things, that it just fixes it on its own. And we just learned that some of those capabilities are built right into the control system.
Okay. So, last comment from me for now. The bottom line of all this is last year, people came up here and accused us of poor leadership because of the quality of this water. Mm-hmm. And there's accountability going forward. Dale, for H2O, I'd still want Kenny to call me. We have a contract. In my opinion, it's not being fulfilled as it should be. And there's accountability now. This has to stop.
So Rodney has asked me to work with Dale to review the daily sheets on a regular, but I'm going to be going through them every week. Just another set of eyes to go through and just say, hey, what about this? What about that? We all need to know that somebody smarter than us is coming along and watching what we do. It's just something we need. And so Rod's asked me to do that. We've already started. And I'm sorry that it happened again. It's not what, I didn't think we were gonna be here again, but I see that we didn't go far enough last year, and we probably should have incorporated some of these capital changes that we're talking about now a year ago. I mean, we thought we solved it, right? We did solve the problem, and we completely understand it, which was a big step, because we didn't understand it until last year about this time.
So, and Bill, I don't know if this is for you or for Dale or H2O. Can we get an update once a month?
Absolutely.
Like okay,
Yep, absolutely.
thank you.
Questions?
Do we
Oh,
have a timeline?
Sir, if you just go to the mic for the recording, sorry.
My name is Walter, and I lived in the Heights since 1979.
When you get up there.
You gotta wait till,
Gotta
yeah.
get up there first, in front of the microphone.
Inner talk is.
It's for the recording, everyone here can hear.
Yes, okay. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Walter, and I've been living in the Heights since July of '79. And I fully appreciate all the chemistry that you guys are talking about. It's what I do for a living. But do we actually have a working timeline? In other words, can I go home today and tell my wife, oh, by the middle of next month, it's resolved? Yes or no?
So we have a timeline in that I'm currently working on it daily.
Okay,
Right.
that's nice.
And we're discovering things that we didn't know through, and we're talking to the integrator and the people who designed the control system. I can't say that I have the whole plan in place, but I have parts of the plan, of which the biggest, probably the most important two pieces is pH at the water, down at the reservoir.
I appreciate that.
And an online monitoring, 24/7 monitoring of the iron and manganese leaving the filters. And I think I've identified the probe that I want to use. It's a hack probe, and they're the industry leader for those things. So
Bill, like
I understand.
2 months, 6 months?
oh
I was
no. Like I plan on ordering it within a week or two.
So 2 months, worst case.
Maybe even it should be less, but.
Tell your wife 2 months.
All right, I'll tell her it's now going to be October.
Tell her
I'll tell
Bill-
her December.
Bill said 2 months, not me.
Bill said 2 months. All right, thank you for your help. Thank you.
And it should be clean until there's not gonna be yellow
Well,
water.
worse, I mean, I think we've solved the problem right now, and certainly. So you
Well,
got pockets of dirty water?
Well, I think there was, but
Okay.
I think there was a flush, unfortunately, yesterday. I don't know. Was there? Is that part of this, or is we're having a problem
That was a
again?
scheduled flush that we did, but it was also part of it, with the
Sir,
precipitation
come up.
being in the
Sir,
pipes.
come on up.
Any kind of velocity that we, that is created by us, which we did, we got rid of a tremendous amount of stuff, in the infrastructure. So they're gonna get discolored water from that especially.
When was the last time we flushed? Because we flushed a
Yesterday.
couple of weeks ago.
Yesterday.
It hasn't improved since the last time it was flushed. A couple of weeks ago, it was flushed as well.
Where do you live, sir?
Bloomer Road, 37.
Okay.
And
And
it hasn't, it improved a little bit. It
Now,
didn't go clear.
Is it yellow or is it brown?
It's yellow today.
Yellow?
But it was flushed not that long ago.
Yeah.
Not like a quarter, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It did, it improved for a little bit.
So what I can say is that what's leaving the plant isn't what you're drinking.
I'm not drinking it. I
Yeah,
haven't-
well, isn't what you see.
And it's been longer than August too. It didn't just start in August. It's been going on all summer. We've been drinking bottled water.
Okay.
That's
Probably since July, like early July?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I see it in the data.
Yeah.
So
It might even be June.
the end of
But
July,
July is
the last 3 or
definitely-
4 days of June, maybe?
Yeah, July is definitely the discoloration.
So that issue has been resolved right now. What's leaving the plant isn't gonna create dirty water anymore. But what's it's very hard to get it all out. Like I said, this stuff is like talc.
But when you're saying you flushed the lines, it's clear. We flushed the lines 2 weeks ago, you just said a few minutes ago. It didn't clear.
Well, over that
And
time,
we
over that
flushed-
time,
We flushed the other day, I just flushed my toilet before I left the house tonight. It's not clear.
Yeah, so over that time, looking at the data, I would say that the water leaving the water plant that doesn't produce the dirty water has only been like the past 4 or 5 days.
So explain the first flushing.
The first flushing was to get the bulk of that out of there. And what happened is that it probably didn't make all of the adjustments necessary to consistently
I get some of it
produce.
will come back
That's
and
right.
it's caught up in the pipe and
That's right.
whatever. But
That's right.
at what point does it go below where there's no discoloration, no?
So within the next 2 weeks, it should clear completely, all right? And then we have to make a strategic decision about should we flush again or not, or when is the next flushing? Because every time we flush, we stir it up, obviously. The goal is to put out enough water over time that doesn't produce the sediment, and then not have to flush again until just before winter.
So Bill, if you're sending clear water and you flushed, it could still take 2 weeks before they
Well,
see
yeah,
the
because
clear water?
there's still the sediment in, you still have that settled manganese that's been building up since like the last week of June. Actually, the last 3 days of June, right? Probably? Yeah. So it's building up, it's been building up. Now we flushed it and we moved a lot of it out. But whenever you flush it and you stir up and you create that velocity, it takes a while to settle because it's just so fine of a powder.
Do we flush around the community?
Well, what they
Just
do
like
is they probably directionally flush, right? So you start at one point from the source and you just keep going and then you get to the first intersection and you go down one and there's a process for flushing that scours the the main as you're going along and gets hopefully 100% of that sediment out of the system. The other problem is they don't have an unlimited source of water to flush as much as probably they would like. It's very, we only have so much water in storage, so it might be the case where you flush, you get it settled, you produce the good water, then you come back 3 weeks, a month later, and you do another flush to get it all out, and then the goal is to make sure that what we're producing just doesn't create more of a problem.
Bill, I got a question for you, just 1 sec. So, I know you mentioned before about, if you have a gully washer, I think you were about to say. So the National Weather Service has us under a flood warning, okay, for late tonight into Friday
Yeah.
night, with possible 5 inches expected.
Yeah, I know.
So that's gonna definitely change.
So what Dale's gonna do, I haven't even talked to him about this, but what Dale's gonna do is he's gonna go down to the Drewville pump station. He's gonna increase his manganese feed, his permanganate feed, all right? He's gonna make sure that he has pink water entering the filter, all right? Not just little pink, but pinker, all right? And it makes him very nervous to do that, because if he goes over that, then he has a pink water problem in the distribution system. The other thing that we might talk about is getting some type of pH adjustment down at that reservoir. That's something that's kind of passed over everybody, but I never thought about it until I started staring at the data. And I mean I literally stare at this stuff and until it clicks. It never clicked that rain has its acid. Rain is very low pH compared to the reservoir's pH normally is 8.0, right?
Around 8.
The rain is like 7.2. So if you get a real load of rain that's washing in turbidity, not manganese or iron, just turbidity, right? That turbidity takes the plant chemicals. For every pound of turbidity comes in, you have to have so many pounds of chemicals to offset that turbidity, to flocculate it, coagulate it, settle it, and filter it, all right? So you have a whole other set of problems that occur when you have a lot of rain and you have a shallow reservoir, which is what we have. We have a lot of rain, we have a shallow reservoir. So pH management is much more important than it's ever been in the past, because there's so much more rain entering the reservoir. So the pH is noticeably lower. We use up the I don't even want to go into the chemistry of that, but we're going to monitor pH.
Keep it
and-
simple.
And we're going to make adjustments, and we're going to try to have it so we can keep that pH high enough so our reaction time with the oxidant is lengthens, or is that what it lengthens? Yeah. So what we want to do is oxidize 100% of the manganese in the amount of time it takes for the water to get from the reservoir to the treatment plant. In that pipe is where all that happens. In that, and if the pH is higher, it happens faster. If the pH is lower, it happens slower. So if it gets to the treatment plant, it's not completely oxidized. Now I have dissolved manganese entering the treatment plant, and what I have to be able to do is do the rest of that oxidation in the treatment plant before it leaves the plant.
And you also have an elevated potassium permanganate level. That's the pink level. You know, you can test it on the top of a filter, and it's pink. It's dangerous. And when I say dangerous, I don't mean health threatening. It's very concerning.
It keeps
when I see
operators
because
up.
It's like, oh no, if that goes through, that's going to turn everybody. It's going to turn 200,000 gallons worth of water pink. So you're riding a fine line. If I don't have the time, or if it's not making the reaction to get there with the amount of potassium permanganate added, if it doesn't have the time, then I have an overload of potassium permanganate coming
Pink
from the
water.
plant.
So what we're going to do, we're going to address that. We're going to put a colorimeter in with a shutdown. So and I can't believe it's hard to believe that this wasn't installed even back when the plant was built, because they still had them. They had them back then. It's going to monitor the color of the water leaving. If the color exceeds whatever our set point is, it's going to shut the plant down. And then the operator gets a call, they go out, and they make a manual adjustment. What we hope to be able to do with the flow pacing you were talking about is have it actually automatically turn down the permanganate. But right now, our goal is to have it shut off.
Let's let
Just
this
like that
gentleman.
was,
Oh,
like,
Just
you
take-
lost me on that, but to John's point, do we have a plan to deal with all the
Yes.
rain tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Just state your name for the record.
Sorry, I got off into the weeds there.
Dale, I think you came up to my house a few weeks ago, and I appreciate that. You came with Rod, I think his name is. I had asked you a question like, hey, this happened last summer, happening this summer. I've been here since 2020, so I don't know how many summers before it happened then. Seems like this is a summer issue.
It is a summer.
So, no offense, but like stating the fact that it got fixed for 9 months last year.
It's a warm water issue.
Right. So it got fixed by the weather, not necessarily by you all.
We made specific changes to the process last
Okay.
year that made the water quality greatly improved from when we made the changes in mid-September until about June. You take that snapshot and you go to the year before and you look at the water quality, we improved the water quality dramatically.
there were instances last year outside of the warm months where it was bad. I know for a
Yeah.
fact, because I got a lot of emails and frustration about it.
The data shows it,
Okay.
right? The improvements were definitely there. I mean, we definitely fixed it, but
It more than doubled the concentration coming in too to come back. So more treatment was done, but there's factors that weren't allowing it to be treated, completely gotten rid of all the manganese. Whether it be time, whether it be chemical, pH,
But I-
all that.
I understand why you're asking a very
Yeah.
logical question,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We say that we fixed it, but it was during a time when you don't remember having the problem. Is that?
Yeah, I guess. So, but if you fixed it, then I guess we talked about this, about why it came back again. And now, I guess if you fix it again with some of these solutions, I guess
Well,
maybe
the idea.
I don't have enough confidence.
Yeah, I
that next
understand.
summer it's
Yeah, I
gonna
would
go
need
back.
it. I would need it.
Yeah.
What the fixes that we're talking about now are capital improvements, are actually taking pieces of equipment and putting in there and taking certain responsibilities away from the day-to-day and putting it in the computer. So you make a set point and it monitors all 24/7. It's always monitoring it.
Yeah.
Boop, it went up, alarm, fixed, it just does it.
Right.
Whereas without those things, they're not monitoring your water 24/7. They take one sample or two samples a day. We're talking about putting online monitoring on the water itself. So 24/7, every bit of water that goes out is being monitored for iron and manganese. Right now, maybe 2 tests a day. They may be taking 2 tests. That's a big difference. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
got you. So, and the piece of equipment that you said that you were researching?
Yeah.
Is that what we're talking about here, or is that for something else?
No, that's it. We're
Okay.
gonna monitor we're gonna put online 24/7 monitoring on the water that leaves the plant for iron and manganese, all right? And if the iron and manganese exceeds our set point of 0.05 or whatever we set it at, it's gonna sound an alarm, make an adjustment, call Dale, call the assistant operator in, they'll look at it, they'll review it, and they'll make a change. Right now, the data can change
Yeah.
from now to tomorrow and then back again.
How long does it take to ship?
Oh, I don't know. We'll find it. We'll get one here.
Well, just, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are you gonna order it tonight?
I don't know. I have to.
Are you gonna order it tomorrow?
I'm gonna look at it. I'm gonna
Okay.
call them
So,
up tomorrow.
this is why I have zero confidence that anything's gonna change.
Okay.
And why I just paid $2,000 to have a whole house water filter in my
Okay.
house. And why I also just paid, I don't know, a couple $100 to get one of those water dispensers and bring in water to drink. So, I appreciate all of the chemistry and all of the smart talk. I have no clue what it says. I'm trying to follow along. But just from getting things done, it doesn't give me any confidence that any of this is gonna get done. And just so you have a real life example of what I'm going through, it's already installed, already paid the money. Had to do it because after it stained my daughter's school shirt brown, I really had no other option. My wife was getting on me about it. So let that just sit for you. You guys too. Thank you.
Hi. I live in the Heights, and
Ma'am, just come to the mic, everyone would like to hear you. And state your name for the record, please.
so I live on Nancy Road, and I've been there 27 years. I've been complaining about the water since day one, because the smell, the chlorine, a lot. This is definitely before all you guys came into the picture. I haven't been to any of the meetings for this. I've called the water department, et cetera, et cetera. I've called the pump station down there. And honestly, I can't believe 27 years and this is still going on. And do you know what happens with manganese poisoning? The toxicity that can happen to people with manganese poisoning? It's neurological. So just for me, it's neurological. Manganese toxicity.
Oh, yeah. Well, we're just discovering that, yes.
Well, I'm not. So I'm just saying there are a lot of little kids, and thanks for the people that are new to the neighborhood that have spoken up and come to the meetings and complained and done their thing, because I didn't, and I raised 2 kids in First Strides. Thank God they're fine, but I just worry about what's going to happen going forward, because just like he said, the confidence level is non-existent. I bought a water softener when I first got there because I saw the discoloration of my walls, etc., only to have it, because the hard water, it froze up the whole thing. So that was a waste of $2,000. So I just don't know. We're paying $2,000 a month, $2,000 a year to have water that I don't think anyone here is drinking. Right. No one's drinking the water. No one likes just showering the water, because that's the biggest organ you've got. There's got to be something that gets done. Hi, Michelle. But it's just a case that, and I know you guys are doing everything you can, but you said we're 30 feet down in the reservoir?
That's where the suction is.
Okay. Any chance of going deeper?
No, that's the bottom.
Because it's a shallow reservoir.
Yeah.
So there's really nothing that we can do about this water. I
believe that what we're going to do next, it's what we're planning on is a pretty substantial capital improvement to change change the design of the system.
And again, all I can say is too little, too late. Because this water system, I think it was built for a smaller area. I really don't think it was ready to handle the people that have been in Brewster Heights, and the changes and the upgrades and the infrastructure changing and people making their houses bigger and bigger bathrooms and bigger. It was like those little builder grade houses.
It used to have wells, I believe.
I'm sorry?
It used to have wells. I think the wells failed.
Yes.
Did it have wells? Okay.
You had wells, and then you had unfiltered water until
Right.
'96.
Right. I think we moved in '96, so I guess I should have researched it a little better. But I'm concerned about the amount of manganese coming in.
Well, just to assure you that, and I understand your concerns, but it's nowhere near a level. Even though, again, it may not be aesthetically desirable, it becomes, unclear the water, but it does not exceed the maximum contaminant level issued by the New York State Department of Health.
And the people you just quoted are not exactly trustworthy either. I think they try and just get it to the point where it's good for their talking point. The fact is, I don't think that any of this stuff is healthy for any of us. And I'm just wondering that we're giving it too much credence. I mean, I would get the reports, every quarter about this is where your levels are at. And I'd look at them like, these aren't potable levels, I don't think, of what we're able to do. I mean, sometimes it's salty, sometimes it's heavy in chlorine. It's not really working for anybody. And I think that's why people are here tonight, because it's not really, I don't really feel like we're heading in the right direction. That's just what I'm thinking. I mean, I know you guys are trying to get levels right, but I don't think the levels are what you should be looking towards for a small community like this.
Can I address your concern?
Okay.
So the system as it's designed right now is an old design, right? It's probably a 40-year-old design, the way the process is designed right now. It doesn't have any online monitoring. What online monitoring is where it actually monitors the water chemistry and it makes adjustments or makes alarms to ensure that what goes into the distribution system is what we want it to be. We don't want to put out water that's just as good as what the regulation says. In fact, we know that at 0.2, the limit is 0.3 for manganese. We know that'll produce dirty water every day. All right, the actual number, the actual level of manganese that we want is 0.05. That's the EPA recommended standard. I don't know why it's not a standard. I think it will be because the latest studies on manganese and neurological disorders, this is all new study, all right? Manganese was always considered as an aesthetic issue. It's not considered an aesthetic issue anymore. The World Health Organization is now really starting to push all of the countries into making it a water quality, a health issue, right? That's kind of new, all right? I've been reading about that over the past 5 years. I doubt that we'll have legislation on it for another 5 or 6 years, but I think we will see a much lower standard for manganese coming at us out of the from the EPA, simply because of the studies are starting to show that manganese does have some health issues at elevated levels. We don't know what those. I don't think they know what the levels are yet, but we know that if we hit the EPA number, the 0.05, which is our goal, which is going to be our goal, and that's actually how it's said in the law. It's the goal, 0.05. That most of these issues will go away. What we have to be able to do, though, is to make the system robust enough so that the people running it, so that the system is being monitored even when they're not there for these contaminants. And that's not happening now. It's only monitored when they go and actually take a test. And that's just the design of it. We're going to change that. We're going to make it a 24/7 monitoring for those parameters, and we'll probably bring on other monitoring tools over time, making recommendations in the engineering report so we can get it funded by the grants and things. I mean, I've
heard of a couple of times that the pump has gone down and the whole place down there, and then suddenly everyone's complaining about the water, but it's like, well, the pump went down. Well, how do we know about that? There should be like kind of a,
There should be an alarm.
Something, yeah.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Right.
Putting an alarm on the actual water that enters the distribution system so that if the levels exceed that at 2 in the morning, we get a
if the
call.
pump goes down, there'd be no water coming in.
Well, okay, I thought you were talking about the chemical feed
No,
pump.
well,
You mean actually delivery pump.
Well, whatever sound.
Well, there's two pumps. There's pumps that pump from the reservoir to the
Right.
treatment plant.
Yeah.
If that goes down, you don't have water.
Yeah, if it goes offline. then
Right,
you-
and if,
You're
and the
complaining.
pumps that pump from the treatment plant to the distribution system, if that goes down, you don't have water.
Right, and it was stagnant, and the water came out very black, and everyone was up in arms, like, well, the pump went down. Well, no one knew the pump went down over the weekend, so it sat for the whole weekend.
Wow, because that hasn't happened in the 2 years I've been here.
No, I don't remember when it happened. You guys remember it happening? Yeah.
Well, you know, this,
It has happened, but I mean, and I think these people have been here a little shorter than I have, but I don't remember the dates. I didn't
Yeah,
write them down.
it doesn't matter, I believe.
Yeah.
Our goal is to make as bulletproof of a system as we can and to improve it and to bring it into the modern era. So it's that, I mean, having the water monitored 24/7 is a huge change. I mean, if we can accomplish that, we'll give them tools that they'd never even dreamed of having. Most water plants don't have that. Most modern water plants don't have 24/7 monitoring. Only the most expensive, largest plants have that capability. So that's something that, we're looking to do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone else after the speaker?
Okay. Quick question. Lots of improvements, sound fabulous. Bottom line, what kind of impact is this to the pockets of the residents?
So the short-term changes that we're talking about, you won't even notice, it's in the O&M budgets.
Okay.
Like the online monitoring, I think we'll be able to do all of that within the budget, right? The capital improvements, so like putting flow pacing, which is a word,
I get it.
putting flow pacing in and changing how we feed those chemicals based on, right now, the pump pumps a set amount regardless of how much water we use. What we want to do is tie in how much chemical is feed to how much water is pumped. So it does this. So if there's more water, there's more chemical. If there's less water, there's less chemical. Because right now, it's this amount. So if the water does that and like that, so you have a time where you may be putting out water that has a higher level of
Bill.
dissolved manganese in it.
Bill, how much?
You've explained.
How
that,
much?
so-
Huh?
How much?
Yeah, you've explained.
Oh, how much does
flow
it cost?
pacing goes-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't think that, I don't know how much, because I didn't see I literally just.
You mentioned a grant.
Yeah,
So does the grant mean that we, the residents, don't pay out of pocket?
So
Or is
the-
something trickling
yeah,
down?
let me-
As was
yep.
mentioned, we pay like $2,000 a year
Yeah,
already
yeah.
for water none of us are drinking.
Yeah, so the
And
water.
some are afraid to bathe their children. We're very sensitive.
No, I get it, I do get
And
it.
I'm not taking it on.
No,
it's my first time
I
expressing this
understand.
out loud, so I'm a little
I get it.
energetic.
Yep, and I appreciate that. I mean, I've been in the water business for 45 years, so
Thank you.
I understand.
So thoughts on the
Yeah.
grant?
So the grant, it's called the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act, all right, WIA, and it pays for 60% of any capital improvements in the grant, or in that, whatever the project is, all right? And it can be multiple, it doesn't just have to be, we're gonna change a filter. It can be, we're gonna fix a filter, we're gonna change the chemical feed, we're gonna put online monitoring, we're gonna put alarm systems, it can cover a whole,
So we think,
the design of the improvement can cover a wide range
so,
of and then, so the way the grants work is it's a 60% grant, plus, one of the really good benefits is you can qualify for no interest. So the part that you do have to borrow, if you can get that no interest, especially in the rising, inflation's killing the water industry right now, but It's
So
a big
Bill-
deal. Yeah,
So,
it's,
so Bill, let me just try and summarize. So the short-term stuff, like the stuff that you're gonna order soon, is within the operating budget. There's bigger improvements that need to be made. We're going to apply for grants, hopefully 0% financing. Bill and I
and
talked.
60%
Yeah.
grant, so 60% of the cost gets
But it-
covered in the grant.
So 0% for the other 40%, and you, correct
And
me
then
on
what
this,
we would
but,
do is we would take the financing that's presently in place and roll it all in and hopefully make it a better deal. So we're I mean, there's monies there from the original capital improvements and stuff that we're still paying off at a set interest rate. So if we could get a 0% loan that we could roll the existing financing in, it could impact greatly a savings and what the customer's costs are.
so I think what we will do is, they'll do the short-term fixes for no, I'm not gonna say no cost, within your budget. And then for any of the longer-term stuff that we're gonna apply for grants for, we're gonna get an update on that, and we'll make sure that you're all aware of what that
And
looks
we're
like.
already working on preparing a grant application. We've already started doing that.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Okay, we're gonna move on. Do you have any last items there, Bill?
I guess I'm sorry we didn't go a little bit further last year. And I mean, when we knew we had a fix, but we didn't put in some of those things that we're going to put in now. Hindsight's always 20/20.
Well, you came into a very difficult situation.
Last year was bad.
Turn it around
Yeah, last year
very
was bad.
quickly.
This is bad. I'm not saying this isn't
No.
bad, but last year was really bad. And I, live and learn. I mean, I've been doing this a long time and I still learn
Hope
something
you don't have
every
to
day.
learn again.
Yeah.
It was done on
Hopefully
our
next
terms.
time it's just, so we'll see, Dale, we'll hear from you or Bill.
Well, I'll be with Rob, talk to Rodney again tomorrow.
And he'll give us an update.
And we'll prepare, I mean, I talk to Rod every day, about what's going on there.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
As do I.
we're gonna move on. We'll give a 2-minute recess, let everyone leave so we can continue our meeting.
Second.
if anyone
All in
has,
Aye.
questions that I didn't get answered,
If you go out in the hallway, you can speak to Bill. I guess
Yeah.
he's making himself available. Just shut that door when you're done,
Yeah.
please. Okay, thank you. Anyone wants to stay for the balance of the meeting? We have more in store. Not quite as entertaining. Recess?
I second, but.
Oh,
Say that again? So I
I made a motion to come out of the recess. All in favor?
Aye.
It was seconded by Eric.
Second. Aye.
Aye.
Okay. We're going to now go into the regular portion of the meeting.
Where did everybody go?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, waive the reading of the correspondence.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 2, approval of voucher list, $1,069,808.21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all meetings held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 PM unless otherwise noted. Thursday, October 12, 2023, I'm sorry. Set a public hearing for Copeland House. Move it. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Set a public hearing for a moratorium on medical and mental health issues. So-
Do we have to,
Oh, wait, first I have to do is waive the rules to put that on there.
yeah.
So that's to set a public hearing for a
We have to vote on the
waive
waives.
the
Yeah,
rules.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the motion itself, set public hearing for a moratorium on medical and mental health issues. Uses.
Uses.
Where we at?
Second.
I got it, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 4, resolution intermunicipal cooperation agreement, Brewster Central School Transportation Services. Now therefore be resolved that the town of Southeast supervisor be and is hereby authorized to execute, delivery, an intermunicipal agreement, IMA, to the Brewster Central School District in the name and on behalf of the town of Southeast, wherein and whereby the Brewster Central School District will provide one-way transportation services from Brewster Central School District facilities to Thunder Ridge Ski Area, Patterson, New York, for the students who participate in the town of Southeast after-school ski club program. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 5, resolution authorization to purchase specialized diagnostic equipment. Now therefore be resolved that the town highway superintendent is hereby authorized to purchase specialized diagnostic equipment at a cost not to exceed $12,000, and be it further resolved that this resolution shall take effect immediately. So move for discussion.
Second. Question.
Yes.
What specifically is the diagnostic equipment? Is this for emissions?
Automotive repair diagnostics.
It's like.
You plug it into,
Oh, okay, all
turn
right.
on the engine.
We're not a licensed inspection station, are we?
No, this is just for him to work and diagnose on his own.
Okay.
It's not measuring emissions. It's just a scan tool that will do heavy-duty trucks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, resolution specialized permit request for E.E. Brewster Senior Housing Self-Storage. Will, was this one
You
you,
want me to read that one too?
if you would, please?
My pleasure. So I find the right page. Now, this is a resolution that's been offered by the supervisor. I'm going to read it. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the instant application. The proposed uses are in such location are a size and character that it will be in harmony and the appropriate and orderly development of the surrounding district, and will not be detrimental to the immediate site or adjacent properties, provided appropriate conditions and restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. And 2, the location and size of the proposed uses, the nature and intensity of operations involved in or conducted in connection therewith, the site layout and its relation to access streets will be such that both pedestrian and vehicular traffic to and from the use and the assembly of persons in connection therewith will not be hazardous, provided appropriate conditions and restrictions are made a part of the grant of a special permit. And 3, the exterior appearance of the buildings will not hinder or discourage the development and the use of adjacent land and buildings, provided all reviews and approvals of the Southeast Architectural Review Board are incorporated in any final approval of the project. And 4, the proposed use will not require such additional public facilities or services or create fiscal burdens upon the town greater than those which characterize uses permitted as of right. And be it further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby grants a special use permit to E.E. Brewster LLC, its successors and assigns in connection with the subject premises in accordance with the statement of use prepared and submitted to the Planning Board in connection with this project development plan, to allow the portions of the subject premises to be developed, used, and utilized as a senior housing complex and self-storage facility on the following conditions. 1, the applicant shall construct and operate the facility in compliance with all conditions set forth in Article 10 of the zoning code, including all special conditions set forth in zoning code sections 138-60.2, which applies to self-storage facilities, zoning code section 138-63.2, which applies to senior housing facilities, and zoning code sections 163.6, 138, that should be 138-63.6, the special Route 22 area district. This grant of special permit is a specific condition upon the developers obtaining a variance from the Southeast Zoning Board of Appeals from the special condition contained in zoning code section 138-60.2C, which prohibits exterior overhead garage-style doors for individual storage units, provided no such doors shall be permitted on front of such building, the exposure facing New York State Route 22, and are otherwise adequately screened from New York State Route 22. 3, the final site development plan shall include such planted buffered areas of size and type as are deemed appropriate by the Planning Board / Architectural Review Board. And be it further resolved that any and all violations of the terms and conditions of this grant of special permit or of the project development plan shall be immediately abated upon notice to the developer. Failure to properly and fully abate such violations shall result in the immediate issuance of process in local criminal court
resulting in the potential imposition of fines and other penalties as set forth in the zoning and building codes of the town of Southeast. In addition, such failure to abate any such violation shall constitute a nuisance and will result in filing of process seeking civil and equitable injunctive relief, including but not limited to an order revoking the grant of special permit and revocation of any certificates of occupancy issued in reliance thereon. And be it further resolved that provided the developer successfully obtains the variance identified in paragraph 2 of the first resolved paragraph above, or otherwise modifies its plan to eliminate the use of exterior garage-style doors, the planning board is authorized and directed to continue its review of the project development plan for E.E. Brewster LLC, incorporating the conditions of this special permit in any resolution granting final project development plan approval. It may ultimately adopt in connection with this project. In addition, the planning board is authorized and encouraged to impose any and all additional measures deemed necessary and appropriate to mitigate perceived impacts of the proposed special permit use upon adjoining properties, including but not limited to requiring appropriate fencing to delineate appropriate storage areas. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to E. Brewster LLC, owner of the subject premises, the Secretary of the Town of Southeast Planning Board, and the Building Inspector of the Town of Southeast forthwith.
Well done.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 7, resolution authorizing use of capped landfill for placement of solar array and derogation of the zoning restrictions. Will,
This again is a resolution that's somewhat lengthy because it is somewhat complex, but it ultimately will allow the use of the capped landfill for a installation of a solar array under the doctrine of that is referred to as the Monroe Doctrine, not the one that we all read about in high school, but the one that was set up as a result of a court case, County of Monroe versus City of Rochester, which permits certain public uses to be brought to areas that are not necessarily zoned for it. Strangely enough, the landfill is in an area that's zoned R160, I think, or R140, 160. So this would allow essentially a commercial public utility type use in a residential zone. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the Town of Southeast hereby makes the following findings of fact in connection with the County of Monroe Doctrine. 1, the nature and scope of the instrumentality seeking immunity. Amoresco and Lower Mine Road Solar LLC, the sponsors, are working together in the development of the project. The sponsor and the town have entered into a land lease, a power purchase agreement, and a pilot agreement in response to an RFP the town issued to develop a solar energy project on the town's closed landfill. The town is the owner of the subject premises and will be a beneficiary of the project. Courts have recognized that the County of Monroe Doctrine can be applied where a governmental entity leases its property for a project that provides even partial public benefits as part of its project development. See in Ray, Crown Communications, New York versus the Town of Southeast Department of Transportation. Citation omitted. 2, the kind of function or land use involved. The sponsors have designed a solar energy facility for the town's closed landfill in accordance with the RFP. The project will receive approval from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation prior to construction, as well as engineering review from the town's engineering firm. 3, the extent of the public interest to be served thereby. The board finds that public interest will be served with the development of this project both local and statewide. The project will serve the public interest for the town as it is providing the town with additional revenue while also repurposing an underutilized property to wit a closed town landfill, town-owned landfill for a beneficial use. The project will serve the public interest locally and statewide by aiding in aiding in and meeting the goals and requirements of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, CLCPA. 4, the effect land use regulations would have upon the enterprise concerned and the impact upon legitimate local interests. The project is not permitted as of right within the current zoning district, as the use is not permitted. The town board issued the RFP with the expectation that a solar energy facility would be developed within the subject premises. Subjecting the project to the town's underlying zoning would put the RFP, lease, power purchase agreement, pilot agreement, and the state's renewable energy goals in jeopardy. Subjecting the project or a solar energy facility by any other proposal to the local land use regulation would result in no development of a solar energy within the subject premises, which is contrary to the town's RFP and development goals. 5, the applicant's legislative grant of authority. Pursuant to Town Law Section 64, Sub 2, the town board is permitted to enter into such lease for town-owned real property for any purpose and for specific public purposes, including development of a solar facility. The town therefore has the proper legislative authority to enter into a contract for the subject premises for the development of a solar energy system to repurpose a closed landfill. Further, such action is encouraged by the state through SECRA, the CLCPA, and other laws and policies. 6, alternative locations for the facility is in less restrictive zoning areas. The town board acknowledges that the sponsors could develop a solar energy facility elsewhere in the town. However, this is the only closed landfill located by the town, in the town, in which the town would be a beneficiary of the development. As such, there are no less restrictive zoning areas within the town in which such a beneficial project that both productively reuses a closed landfill and meets local and state energy goals could be completed. 7, alternative methods of providing the needed improvement. The town board's intent through the issuance of the RFP and the lease is to repurpose the town's closed landfill for development as a solar energy facility. Other alternatives that have been discussed to accomplish this would include the rezoning of the premises and amendment of the town's land use regulations. However, the town board has determined that the R160 zone is not an appropriate district for solar use, as it would not be beneficial to the town. 8, intergovernmental participation in the project development process and an opportunity to be heard. No other governmental agency would be impacted or need to participate in the project development process through local zoning. There is no GML 239M referral required, and other permitting obligations for the project will be complied with. Nonetheless, to ensure that intergovernmental participation, interested parties, and the public have an opportunity to review and comment on the project, the town board held a public hearing on August 24th, 2023. This public hearing did grant the public, the general public, and any other governmental board or body interested in the project to participate. And be it further resolved that based upon the foregoing findings, the town board of the town of Southeast hereby determines that the project provides public benefits that, after balancing the County of Monroe factors, weigh in favor of finding that the project should not be subject to local zoning and should be permitted to obtain a building permit for construction once the town engineer's comments have been satisfied. And be it further resolved, the town clerk is hereby authorized and directed to forward a certified copy of this resolution to the sponsors and to the Southeast Building Department forthwith. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Jamie, have we covered your item? Okay, you're set? Okay. Okay, next one on the agenda will be number 8. Appointment to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby appoints Scott Seaman to fill the unexpired term of Andres Gill due to expire December 31st, 2025, and be further resolved that this appointment shall take effect immediately upon the taking and filing the appropriate oath of office of the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Scott, if you stick around a moment after the meeting, I think Michelle could do the honors.
Sign in.
Congratulations. Number 9, resolution, appointment to the Ethics Board. Now therefore resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast hereby appoints Janice O'Connor to fill unexpired term of Alexander J. Law due to expire December 31, 2023. And be further resolved that this appointment shall take effect immediately upon the taking and filing the appropriate oath of office and the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to make a motion to waive the rules and make another appointment to the Board of Ethics, which was vacated today.
Second.
On that motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Now therefore be resolved, the Town Board of Town Southeast hereby appoints Janice O'Connor.
No.
Oop.
You just did her.
Hey, oh wait, I got it. Wait, this one now becomes 9A, sorry. 9A. Now therefore be resolved, that the Town Board of Town Southeast hereby appoints Eric Levine to fill the unexpired term of Anthony Colello due to expire December 31, 2023, and be further resolved that this appointment shall take effect immediately upon the taking and filing the appropriate oath of office of the aforesaid appointee with the clerk of the town of Southeast. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Supervisor's report. Oh, we have to do number 10, which is waiving, no,
it's a part.
and that's what she wants. Okay. Brewster Industrial Owner LLC, payment in lieu of taxes, pilot agreement. Now, as you know, you came to me at kind of last minute yesterday, very, very late. I denied the request. Lori Bell went to on your behalf, spoke to myself. Bill wasn't quite satisfied. She spoke with the town attorney, and he authorized it to be put on the agenda tonight, so you can thank those two. Okay, now with that, Brewster Industrial Owner LLC, payment in lieu of taxes, a pilot agreement. Now therefore be resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast hereby authorizes and approves the following tax abatement schedule to be applied only to so much of an increase in assessed valuation of the subject premises applicable to the improvements made pursuant to IDA financing program contemplated herein under. Year 1, 50%. Year 2, 45. Year 3, 40. Year 4, 35. Year 5, 30. Year 6, 25. Year 7, 20. Year 8, 15. Year 9, 10. And year 10, 5%. They were all percentages. All in accordance with the schedule of estimated values and assessment annexed hereto, Schedule A, and be it further resolved that the clerk of the town of Southeast is authorized and directed to transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the Putney County Industrial IDA, the assessor of the town of Southeast, and the town of Southeast receiver taxes. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Do a roll call? No.
Nope. Roll call? Okay. I'll withdraw the all in favor on that and go to roll call.
Councilman Alvarez.
Yes.
Councilman Cypress.
No.
Councilman Larka.
No.
Councilman O'Connor.
No.
Supervisor Hay.
I would have said yes. Fails. It's 3-2 against. Okay, next item is the supervisor report and my presentation of the town budget to the town clerk. As we all know, the New York State tax cap is an arbitrary number not tied to reality or inflation. Unlike previous years, the town will be experiencing the largest turnover of employees in decades, and there's a need to hire additional personnel. For this reason, for the past month, as I prepared this year's budget, I worked with the town board so we could prioritize the needs in towns moving forward. This year's budget, for the first time in several years, requires the town to hire additional personnel. 1, the tax receiver requested a full-time employee. Town clerk requested reinstatement of a full-time position in her department that was reduced several years ago from full-time to part-time. This full-time position will be split approximately 60-40, with the tax receiver getting 40 and the town clerk 6%, so each department will increase an employee by 1/2 of an employee. The Recreation Department will be merged with the Facilities Department, and the town will be hiring a full-time Director of Parks and Recreation, a full-time Recreation Leader, as well as 2 part-time Recreation Assistants. The duties of the 2 departments have increased substantially the past several years, and the department's programs run several days a week and many evenings. The Building Department also requested a full-time Assistant Building Inspector to deal with an increased workload to enforce our zoning codes for the protection of our residents. A $70,000 increase in the tax is 1% on the tax cap. This one calls to exceed that by 7.3%. The reason for that? Health insurance. 46 full-time employees in the town represents $1.2 million. It jumped 7% from the previous year, of which we're allowed to recoup 2 from the public. Highway materials are through the roof. Some materials have risen as much as 25 to 40%. Again, most the town can recoup on the tax cap is 2%. Employee salaries were revised by 2.75%. Again, we can recover 2%. The garbage contract rose 3%. We can recover 2%. And next year, we're working on a new contract. Now, this happens every year. We've done very, very well. This is it's my 12th and last budget, but I had one coming in. I asked the town board at that time to allow me to work on the budget, and it wasn't the best ever happened. It was at least $1 million difference between what was proposed and what was eventually approved. I came in, we had about $96,000 in reserve, and right now we have quite a bit more than that. However, we have not difficulty, but we have things that are costing a lot of extra money, and therefore we have to raise taxes. I'm raising taxes. Now, the town board has an opportunity in the next at least 2 weeks, I'll tell them the exact date tomorrow, to redo anything in the budget that they wish to choose that I've done, maybe I'm not going to say wrong, just they think they can trim it better. And they'll put that forward, and that's what will be the final one that will go for a vote. Now, I'm not one to say it's only this much, but let me tell you about the other towns. Town of Carmel, they have, in taxes to the public, they pay $1,764. Kent, $2,424. Patterson, $1,700. Phillipstown, $3,999. Putnam Valley, $1,692. And currently, town out is $704. So we're more than half below. So what sounds like a big increase, and 9% is big, don't get me wrong, but dollar-wise, it is not as much. At $4.50 per month extra, we could have everything in the budget that, at least the agenda as far as we have with the employees, hopefully will satisfy everyone's taste. And again, we are the lowest in the town, all the towns, and 2% is for the fire district. 7.5 of your tax bill is that of the town, 11.5% of the county, and 80% of the schools.
What was it again?
Which one?
Say that again?
2% for fire district, 7.5 for the town,
Okay.
county 11.5, and 80 on whatever.
Does the town include garbage
Yes.
and library?
One, yeah, the garbage and library, yes. The only thing separated out is, is fire.
Okay.
The
got
fire
it.
district. Everything else is included.
Thank you.
Not the best news in the world. We're providing, I believe, everything. There's a lot going on. I'm going to hopefully come back in 2 weeks. I'm going to have a capital reserve budget that I'd like to put forward to the board to move forward. We have many things coming up in the future, new town hall, new court, and I didn't use surplus because if you try to balance a budget with your surplus, you're using money that it's a one-shot deal. And then next year, next supervisor, we'll have to make up for what we're borrowing this year from our own self, but we'll lose it, and we'll continue down the road. So with that, Michelle, I will give you this year's budget. And unfortunately, it's kind of by pound this year.
Thank you.
After you receive, if you have any questions, both Ron and myself will discuss it with you or individually or however you want to do it. I want to thank all our town employees who helped participate in it. The budget comes to me about late July. Ron prepares the preliminary numbers for us based on this year's revenues and everything. I then interview each department head. They asked for certain things. I won't say everything was granted, but basically no change in the day-to-day. And there's the budget.
Tony, procedurally and timing-wise, and I'm not saying I want to change anything, I didn't even look
You
at
might,
it yet,
but-
obviously. How would we make a change? Like, would
You-
I give
you
you
go-
an
you-
account and say?
Yeah, you
and we
just
can
you
make
take
a
take the
motion,
budget, mark it up, okay? They have a public hearing on whatever the town board changes. Mine's the preliminary, yours will become the final.
Okay.
Then we will have a meeting before the public, I think I have the dates, I'll give you the dates, but the dates come. We have a public hearing, identify the new numbers, then we vote on it, and that's how the change gets made.
But there's no saying all five of us would even agree, so
No.
we would actually vote on each line, like, or?
Well, I'm quite sure I would say there's probably 2-3 dozen lines you may question.
Okay.
And if it's whatever, the four of you would make up the mind. So if it was 2-2, I become the tiebreaker in that sense, but otherwise.
Okay, and what's the timing look like?
You got about 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I'll give you the exact dates tomorrow. I didn't have time, unfortunately, to go research what the days. I had all the days are due. And when we have the actual budget approval night, it has to be a night outside of our normal meeting because we have to approve it before our last meeting in November, and we wouldn't have time. Our last meeting is after it's due to the state.
Will we have your budget reserve, I forget what you called it, your fund reserve?
Capital reserve? Yeah, but it's not,
Will we have those numbers before
I will
our
give-
deadline is passed?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in 2 weeks, again, I hope to have that put together. And again, that's for the future. It has really nothing to do now. We have some big ticket items coming, I mean, really big ticket items, which we haven't had here in the town in probably 30 years. We have a lot of additional money that came in from COVID, ARPA monies and things of that nature. I'm breaking it all down. And,
Yeah, I'm not saying I want to spend any of it, just,
No,
I
no.
want to look at the whole thing.
But I'm trying,
so,
yeah. But again, that will have nothing to do with this budget. I'm just saying, here's what we need now. Personally, I don't like raising taxes. And I'm not gonna, every time we get, it's only this much, $450 is not a lot of money. It is to some people that don't have any money. So I'm not gonna say that. But we are the lowest taxed town in the entire county by almost half to all the others. And that's not the reason we did it. We have a lot of things we have to get done here. As you know, we have personnel we need to hire. And I believe we almost all agreed on whatever we had to hire here with the, building department, recreation, that all.
Those are two good places to invest in.
And that's what the,
Tony, I have two questions. One, there's a soft copy of this somewhere we can get?
what do you mean? soft?
Electronic?
I think Ron can send it to you Monday. He's
Okay.
not in tomorrow.
Okay. And and maybe this is a question for Ron, but there was a bond for the open land where the
Yes,
baseball
open-
fields are.
Oh, wait, say it again. I thought you were gonna say open space.
Yeah. That, where the baseball fields are proposed.
Wait, where's the
Close
base?
way.
That was money that was used to acquire that land.
Right, that was bonded, right?
It was an
Well, we
environmental
got,
bond.
they paid back the money. When they bought that land and we paid back.
They
the
haven't
bond.
bought it yet.
They didn't, well, when they do.
So
That won't affect us in any way.
So that, we're still paying that bond
Yeah. I believe-
yearly?
Yes.
But they're gonna pay off the balance of it when they purchase it?
No, they're gonna pay back whatever the agreed amount, I don't know what the agreed amount price was for sale. Well, they traded land for land.
Right.
So
Right,
there's a
so-
freight, if we bought it for, I don't know what we bought it for, but
It
if
was
we bought it,
it was worth $1 million, we paid $2 million, and it cost us $3 million with the bond.
okay, well,
I remember that.
I don't think we borrowed the full 3 million. I think that's
No.
what was
Well, it was
authorized.
2 with interest, it wound up being.
yeah. And they got 5, and I have to admit, the first thing I did was get rid of that bond. Because,
Oh,
well, and I got rid of it. I did not allow any more borrowing.
Oh,
Because they were going out and buying whatever they wanted to buy.
oh, it was like a
And-
revolve.
And they actually thought the money was free.
So, I guess my question I could ask Ron is, when does that debt payment expire?
I don't know, but we won't be paying it off until they actually, well, no, we're not gonna.
We're paying it
we're
annually,
paying-
right?
we're paying it. We
Paid
tr-
anyway. It's whatever the bond was done under the Environmental Bond Act.
And it was an equal value. In other words, if that property was at $2 million, not counting the interest and everything else, they had given us in kind, if not more than. I
Right.
think they said it was like $300,000, $400,000 more than what we thought it was worth.
Yeah. What I was wondering is if we're paying like $150,000 a year.
About 163, I think, something like that,
Do you know what year that was?
before I got here.
I think it was 08, but
So.
Yeah,
alright, so
'cause
there's-
Wrights was here.
So there's 5 years
And
left.
this was done under John Dunford.
Is that sooner?
The acquisition of that land was done under.
Really?
When-
because it was the same year as the recreation, which failed. So I thought that was 08, but
No, we'll find out,
yeah.
Okay, so eventually that will expire and
yeah.
come
But
off of the.
To me, it was a waste of $163,000 a year.
I concur.
Yeah,
I wasn't here.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
public comment?
Scott Seaman, Town of Southeast. I'd like to thank the board for your confidence, and I look forward to serving on the board. Just a couple quick items. As an individual of the town, I always said that the town is a great partner with the schools and the rec department. I appreciate that it's continuing. We're going to offer these things to the students. I do appreciate the review of the pilot plan. I've always, this maybe will tell our IDA that they should bring us, better items and better support. And in regards to the mental health usage, I should say, that's going to be coming up, I would just ask the board to consider carefully and not to overreact to people's fears about these things. I've spoken to many people that use these type of setups, and it is not what the public may believe it is. And it is also, by speaking through a number of mental health professionals throughout the area, the need for something of these types is well beyond what we've needed, and even if we get some types, it pales by comparison to what we actually need. Our seniors are suffering, our children are suffering, our town is suffering, the community. These kind of needs are greatly needed, and I would ask you just please consider that when you're, whatever review you happen to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Supervisor and Town Board. My name is Dan Tartaglia. I represent Brewster Industrial Owners, LLC. We're a little bit taken aback by the vote this evening. I'd like to ask for some guidance and your thoughts as to why you voted the way you voted, because if this project doesn't tenant, it's going to remain empty. And if it remains empty, the loss of revenue will be considerable. And it'll be a lot less than the monies the town or the school district and the county will be receiving with tenants in place and the pilot in place. So if you feel like you'd like to give us some guidance, I'd be more than happy to hear.
I mean, just speaking for me personally, I don't love pilots in general, and so that has nothing to do with the project. That probably alone wouldn't have made me vote no. But frankly, I've been a little uncomfortable with, the two different proposals. We've seen multiple spreadsheets. We've found errors in every spreadsheet we've been given, and I don't feel like I've ever fully understood the impact of what you're asking for. And without good information, I can't vote yes for it.
Well, the spreadsheets, as you know, are illustrations. There's no...
There's basic math errors in what was given us, so I don't want to debate it. That's
No,
my opinion,
I'm trying to get some clarification here. I mean, the project's not going anywhere. The beauty of pilots, I'll tell you the beauty of pilots, because a lot of people are against them. The village of Portchester, 20 years ago, if you've been to downtown Portchester in a while, has hundreds of thousands of square feet of retail. When that came in, it was all piloted. People came, they complained, they didn't like pilots, why are we giving breaks to commercial developers? We're homeowners, we're carrying the tax burden, blah, 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 blah. 20 years later, those projects, right now, are all coming off pilot. They're all moving from the tax-exempt role to the taxable role. Last year, and I can get you the information on this, Portchester was able to reduce its tax rate because over $200 million came onto the taxable roll from the tax-exempt roll. The real estate isn't going anywhere. Eventually, the pilots burn off, and when they burn off, you're left with substantial commercial development. So they're not a bad thing. In this particular case, there's no way this project can compete with other projects in the Hudson Valley, in Western Connecticut, in New Jersey for the same tenants. 5 years ago, 3 years ago, these projects had tenants before they were built, before they went in for land use approvals. Now, they've become very, very competitive, which is why we were looking for this pilot in the first place. The reason for the 12 years and 10 years was a design to try to create some benefit until the project had stabilized with its tenants. Nobody liked that. Everybody seemed uncomfortable with it. It's okay. We took it off the table and came back and said, okay, we'll go with this. We'll go with the straight 10-year, which everybody is used to, the 485B formula. That's really all that's happened. If there are errors in spreadsheets, I don't think you want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I mean, we can correct those.
We've had months to clear that stuff up, and 2 days ago I was told you're not on the agenda, and then today the agenda comes out and you're on it. So you can't expect me to vote yes for something when it's dumped on me at the last second, and I don't feel that I got accurate data.
I appreciate those comments.
And that's why I told you no.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Only I supported, but not tonight.
I'm Jane Orland. I'm with Cushman & Wakefield. I work with these guys, and I do economic development incentives nationally. So if you have questions on incentives, what other municipalities are doing, how they're doing it, what they're doing, we're going to have to answer those questions. With regard to the spreadsheet, okay, I worked with Lori diligently for a week because Mr. Hay wanted Lori to make sure it was correct. We went back and forth, and working on these spreadsheets takes time. We have to make sure everything is correct. Councilman Cypress, if there is a mistake, I would like to know it. Please tell me, because we spent a lot of time and hours looking at it to make sure it's correct.
Well, I believe Councilman Larka pointed out the mistakes and redid some of the math, and I believe it was you who responded and said, everything's the way it was given to me. So that wasn't really trying to find the solution and get us the right data.
Well, this was the data that was given to me. So this is, if there's mathematical mistakes.
Which he pointed out.
I didn't talk to you.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
No, there was. I sent it to the board.
Right, but you said you pointed out some mathematical mistakes. I'm sorry, I didn't talk to you.
Oh, well, I did. I sent it to the board. I created a new spreadsheet. I think actually the spreadsheet I created is used in this document. This one. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure this is mine. So I
Yeah,
revised
this is
it.
the one I have, and this is the executive summary. You have this?
No, that was new the
I
first time.
created this.
Okay, so we're working off of two different spreadsheets then.
No,
So
no, no.
He-
That one, the first
He
one.
worked on a spreadsheet to correct what he believed were math errors in what was provided to us.
And he believes the new one you have, I know I put Lori on the spot, but did Eric come and play with any of this?
Well, no, this is a revised version
revised, but
of
you
what
pointed
I
out- you
did.
pointed out-
We're more than happy if there are,
Can I ask a
all I'm
que-
saying is that if there are errors, okay, we are more than happy to look at them, because I would welcome, I didn't see your spreadsheet, okay? So I only have a hard copy, so I can't see what the mathematical errors.
Just personally, it wasn't just and I thought I made this clear, it wasn't just the mathematical, it wasn't that spreadsheet that.
Yeah, I was giving my reasons,
Yeah.
just you did some of the
Yeah,
work.
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a spreadsheet that
Okay,
swayed my
that's-
decision.
We understand it, but understanding that when you have these buildings, and we do this all over the country, right? You have an ROI when you have tenants that are gonna create economic activity that will create 3 times as much revenue for your town.
I just
In
wish,
terms of-
I wish that you guys had this sense of urgency and importance when we were asking questions. That's all. Like now, because we voted no, you're telling us how important it was, but when we had issues with some of the numbers, those are the numbers. That was
We
the
also got
answer.
some false information about who was or wasn't supportive of it. I watched some of the school board meetings. I think you told them that we had approved it already.
No, we haven't gone to the school
I watched the
board.
school
Yeah,
board.
I'm not saying you were there, but this project has definitely made a school board presentation.
And there were comments about the town board. But when was the property purchased, the project?
Year ago?
Was there a pilot on it when you purchased it?
No.
And I assume there was a valuation of the property before you purchased it? I'm just curious.
What do you mean?
Well, if there's an ROI, that probably should have been contemplated in that purchase price.
Well, can I speak with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Public
stand
hearing.
up.
You know, we had gone to the IDA a long time ago. As you heard, most of the projects in the region, other projects in the region that are competitive have pilots. You know, the building, you know, without a pilot at full taxes is almost not leasable because the taxes are so much higher than any other building. You know, maybe shame on us that we didn't, you know, fully negotiate this before we closed. We're kind of entrepreneurial. We expected that, we shouldn't have expected, but we thought we could work with the town and they would see the benefits of a staged up, ramped up pilot to get tenants into a building. You know, tenants want certainty, tenants want competitive pricing. And as you heard before, it does ramp up and burn off, and then you're left with a very stable asset with tenants in place. But absent the pilot, the buildings are kind of unleasable.
Well, I don't speak for everyone on the board, but I voted the way that I felt I should vote.
Okay. And Mr. Alvarez, are you voting yes? Okay, thank you.
Any other public comment? Town board?
I have no comment.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we close tonight's meeting.
Second.
Second by who? Eric, Circles? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.